This is one of the webinars in the process of knowledge exchange in the ENSMOV project, and I'm very happy to announce to you the presenters of today's webinar. So I will first tell you a bit about the project and the purpose of the webinar and why we decided to talk a bit about this topic. Then we are going to hear about the 4 examples of the energy efficiency funds in different countries of our partners and colleagues, and I'm very happy to announce that we are talking with the experts on the Article 7, or now in the new ED Article 8 of the Energy Efficiency Directive, which are Vesna Bukarica from Croatia, Diana Lopez Garcia from Spain, Dario Di Santo from Italy, and then Emilian Stoica from Romania. And they are going to tell you a bit about how their energy efficiency fund is working, or how it is being set up as an example in Romania. Also, at the end, I'm happy to announce my dear colleague Jean-Sébastien Brock, who is an energy efficiency policy and a policy evaluation expert, and he will give us a bit of a, let's say, sum up of what has been said and what are the good examples and ideas for the next period in the setting up and management of energy efficiency funds. So first, I'm going to just do a short introduction on the project, because this is the surrounding we are working on, and you will see what are the objectives of our work. Project coordinator is Lasios Soikonomou, my dear colleague from IECP. The purpose of our project, which has started in June 2019, and is to try to share knowledge among the countries for the implementation of the policies of Article 7. So we are dealing with both the implementation of the policies in the member states, but also with the monitoring, reporting, and verification, trying to enhance the implementation of the policies, but also to ease the work of the countries in reporting to the European Union. How we do it? We have 15 partners from 14 member states, which are directly representing member states, but also these partners are in great cooperation with other member states, so they are covering more national policies, and we are also reaching out to the accession countries in cooperation with the energy community. So pre-accession countries are also involved in our knowledge exchange, and we are also cooperating with other projects, building upon other projects like ENSMOV, for example, trying to be as efficient as possible, making our policies functional for the member states we are working with. How do we work? So we are using existing experience, existing tools. We have created analysis of the policies implementation needs and gaps through desktop research, but also mainly through interviewing and surveying the stakeholders, the national authorities, trying to find out what are their major issues with policy implementation and MRV schemes. We are then involving stakeholders, trying to do the knowledge exchange. This knowledge exchange can be on national level. So, for example, our partners are the experts in the area, and they are assisting national authorities in the implementation of the Article 7. But also we are doing these regional exchanges if there are countries who are having similar issues in the implementation of the policies, but also at the end, of course, as you are seeing now, we are trying to do this EU level exchanges where all the interested participants could see the good examples or maybe some other challenges or gaps, and share among each other. Some of them are in this form, so there is a bigger, let's say, crowd trying to share our experiences, but some are in a smaller form, where there are just several participants, like the obligation parties, trying to figure out how to deal with their joint challenges. Of course, we are using the existing, as I said in the beginning, existing knowledge, existing methods, because we don't want to create additional methodologies which are not not being efficient, but we are trying to use the knowledges of other projects and also our own research to try to do the exchange process. And at the end, of course, we are taking care about the sustainability of the project actions. So we are trying to develop tools, compendium of resources, knowledge platform, and so on. You will see the methods to let our project live beyond its finalization and to remain available to the policy makers with our knowledge and the methods and the tools. So you can see here just a brief introduction on the current progress. So on the needs assessment, we did the needs, we evaluated the needs of and the interests of the stakeholders. And you can see for this cycle we are working on now, and this is the lower table, they were mostly interested in the Article 7 and the climate targets, meaning also adjustment of their national legislation framework to what is expected in the next period with the Fit for 55 legislative package, but also there are other topics. One of them is, of course, setting up the Energy Efficiency Fund. We have developed a lot of materials and created a lot of knowledge which you can reach out to through our platform, and I'm going to show you the links later on. So some of them are very specific, and you can see, for example, this one that on the fuel suppliers and how they can fill their energy efficiency obligation scheme and what are the challenges they are facing. This is a result of one small group interaction, but also there are some that which are relevant for all the stakeholders. You can see that we implemented a lot of EU regional and national level exchanges and workshops. And this is the announcement for the ongoing work. You can check at our platform the recordings for the workshop on IT tools for monitoring and verification, also on the Article 7 and climate targets. And I will, if you wish, you can become a follower at our website and newsletter and so on, and you can see the announcements of other workshops which are mentioned here. So additionality and materiality one, side effects of the energy efficiency obligation schemes and the alternative measures, which are very much relevant since the whole multiple benefits and non-energy side effects of the energy efficiency is a very much relevant topic for the next period. Also something that interests, I guess, everyone, how to finance the schemes. And of course, a bit about the ESCOs, so the energy performance contract in line with the Article 7 or Article 8. You can see also our platform. You can see there not only the results of what has been developed as tools and exchanges, but also you can see the names of the people in our consortium who are dealing with specific issues in some of the countries. And if you are interested in the topic of that specific country, you can reach out to the expert and also to the national contact of the country. We also have some additional exchanges which you can join. For example, a LinkedIn group where we are sharing the news from the project, but we are also sharing the topic news on the topic, and the members are also sharing their questions on the topic. And also we have a forum on the platform and the YouTube channel where you can see, besides this recording, also the interviews with the relevant experts which are done by our partner FIRE and are dealing with the specific topics of the implementation of this article. We are now focused also on the policy work. So we are working on the policy briefs and the recommendation on the policy implementation, synthesis of the outcomes that we have been working on, and so on. So this is like a sum up of what has been exchanged is the conclusions, and then from them, of course, the policy briefs and the policy recommendations. On the topic of today, so within our work, a lot of focus is, of course, related to funding, which seems, of course, like a logical result of the implementing any kind of legislation, which of course involves in investments. In our case, we were dealing with a lot of topics related to funding. So these topics were, of course, the division of the costs among different costs, funding specifically of energy efficiency obligation schemes and of the alternative measures. Then we were also dealing with the specific topics related to funding, like, for example, state aid. So you will see also the examples of the state aid issues related to energy efficiency projects. Then, of course, with the available energy efficiency funding from the European Union. And you can see there what are the changes in the funding related to the policies after the COVID-19 crisis and so on. So you can get this information from our website and also from the knowledge transfer platform. During our project, our colleagues from CAPE also conducted a bit of a research on the funding that the member states are using for funding Article 7 policies. And as you can see, they are using a mix of resources. But then again, partners show that the most policies use only single funding for a source. And this funding can be either public budget, EU funding, taxes, ETS, or through on-bill financing. And you can see there in the division how many countries use multiple funding resources. You can also see the division here among the countries, which are the core group of the countries in the partnership. A lot of them are using more, let's say, more policies than they are using different resources. Some countries, of course, use EU funding, and you can see here that some countries use it mostly or only EU funding, and some other countries have not used EU funding for the energy efficiency related projects until now. Of course, this is, I think, relevant as an introduction, because we are now dealing with who is in charge of managing the funds from the perspective of collecting the revenues from the energy efficiency obligation, and also from the perspective of who is, let's say, funding these the projects using alternative measures, mostly using these revenues. And about that topic, we are going to hear, as I said in the beginning, from the colleagues. And of course, not to use a lot of time for the introduction, I would like to ask my dear colleague Vesna to start with the presentation of the funding of the Energy Efficiency Fund in Croatia. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana, for this introduction. I think it was very informative, and I will try to present and give you all important information about the Energy Efficiency Fund in Croatia. So let me just share my screen, and please just tell me that you see the presentation as it should be. Is it fine in present?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me start immediately. So I will talk about Environmental Protection and Energy Efficiency Fund in Croatia. And I will present you basically this institution, because it's an institution in Croatia. What is its role in Article 7 of EED, and just try to draw some conclusions from our experience. So about the fund. The fund was actually established way before EED, or even before ESD, for those of you who remember that first directive on energy services. It was established as a separate institution in 2003 by a special act, so by special legal act on Environmental Protection and Energy Efficiency Fund. So the operation of this institution is governed by this specific law. It is established as an extra budgetary public institution, meaning that it's not considered to be a part of state budget, but outside of the state budget. And this is possible because this institution is implemented, is based on polluter pays principle. So basically the incomes of the fund are different environmental charges. For instance, on burdening environment with waste, charges for different polluters of environment like SO2, NOx, CO2 before ETS. Then also special environmental charge for motor vehicles is income of the fund, and some I would say 6 years ago, since 2015, the fund is also responsible for gathering and allocating the money collected from EU emission trading system. The fund is also an institution which is able, according to its jurisdiction, to enter into international bilateral and multilateral cooperation agreements to attract additional sources for financing projects in 3 main areas. And these are environmental protection on one side, as the name of the institution says, and energy efficiency and renewables on the other side. Just to give you an impression about the magnitude of the institution, it received its incomes in 2021 will be around 2 billion Croatian kunas, which is approximately 280 million euro. This and from this amount, the projects are financed, and depending on the work program and financial plan of the fund, it's distributed to environmental protection and to energy efficiency field. The fund operates on principles of awarding financial assistance to different users, and it dominantly operates based on grants, so non-refundable sources, and much less, although it's possible by the law for fund to provide loans, this option is used much less. Beneficiaries of the fund can be anyone, actually, and literally everyone. Co-financing or the grants are available to both citizens and legal persons from public and private sector, and it is also prescribed by the legal acts governing the operation of the fund that these grants can be up to 40, 60, 80, or 100%. These higher grant rates are introduced due to possibility to assist underdeveloped areas in Croatia, like islands or mountain areas, or protected nature sites. And according to special government decisions, co-financing or financing can even go in full amount up to 100% of eligible costs. But absolute amounts of grants awarded and co-financing rates, but within this framework, are determined in each and every public tender or public call that is announced by the fund. And now, with the courtesy of colleagues from the fund, this is just roughly to see how the funds, how the available funding is allocated, and this lower pie shows that fund actually the majority of users of these sources are citizens, and this is due to programs for co-financing single-family houses and electric vehicles for citizens. This upper pie shows that between these areas, energy efficiency, mobility, and renewables, the dominant is energy efficiency, and this is again due to the fact that Energy Efficiency Fund is implementing body for co-financing program for energy renovation of single-family houses in Croatia, which has a strong interest from citizens. So this is in general what fund does, and it also has certain legal obligations related to energy efficiency outside of that what is prescribed in its own law. So in Act on Energy Efficiency, which we have in Croatia, it is strictly stated that the fund is obligated to ensure co-financing for energy efficiency measures which are prescribed in National Energy Efficiency Action Plans, in NEAPs, and in other programs like energy renovation of like programs for energy renovation of buildings. Just for your information, in Croatia, we do, of course, have NECP as a key strategic and planning document based on governance regulation, but according to our law, we kept the principle of 3-year NEAPs. So basically, in these 3-year NEAPs, we are defining or planning activities in more details for next 3-year period. And as I said, fund is obligated to finance measures stated in this plan. Also, in this Act on Energy Efficiency, the Article 7 of EED is, of course, transposed, and we have introduced also Energy Efficiency Obligation Scheme. And the fund is the institution which is determined to collect the penalties paid by obligated parties that do not achieve their annual obligations. And furthermore, based on Act on Energy Efficiency, the fund is also obligated to input data on all finalized energy efficiency projects implemented with support of the fund into our MIV or MRV platform called Smes. So basically, the fund is a single most important stakeholder which fills in this platform or database with data on alternative measures, because all measures that are co-financing from the fund are declared alternative policy measures in the context of Article 7. So just a brief relation to energy efficiency obligation scheme. So according to our law, obligated parties need to pay 1.2 kuna per kilowatt hours not saved, not claimed as achieved obligation on annual basis. It's 0.16, I think, euros per kilowatt hour. And this fee is prescribed this year, so for 2021, but it will be corrected every year based on consumer price index. It's stated in the law in this way. And it is also stated in the law that the fund needs to collect this money paid by obligated parties collect it into the special account and invest in alternative measures, and to report on annual basis on investments, measures, and savings achieved with that money. So unfortunately, I cannot tell you any more details and give you any more details regarding this connection. Because energy efficiency obligation scheme started in Croatia in 2019. So we have 2 full years of obligation behind us, but in that period, no payments from obligated parties were made to the fund, so no one paid any penalty. And now we are in 2021. We have new incomers into the energy efficiency obligation scheme, so we'll see how it goes. But for the time being, the situation is that the energy efficiency fund did not receive any payments on this account. However, energy efficiency fund is, I would say, crucial part of our overall energy efficiency policy in context of Article 7 of EED also, because the fund implements most of the alternative measures that we have in Croatia, and for them it either provides financing from its own sources or implements the measure as an intermediate body for the use of some other sources like European structural and investment funds. So basically, just to give you an illustration, for period 2014-2020, the fund has entered into our MRV platform more than 90% of all entries into that system. So more than 90% of all projects and energy efficiency projects in Croatia were one way or the other implemented by the fund. And we are talking about something above or significantly above 17,000 entries into our MRV platform. Just basically for the end to mention that alternative measures implemented by the fund are renovation programs for single-family houses, multi-apartment buildings, public lighting, eco-driving, e-vehicles, electric vehicles, energy efficiency measures in the industrial sector. Some were implemented in previous period, some continuously, some with own sources, some, as I said, as an intermediate body. But the institution, the fund, the institution is handling these programs in some manner. And basically more than 85% of achieved energy savings from alternative measures are from projects supported by the fund. So I would say a very important link in our overall energy efficiency policy. So basically, I cannot not tell you how to establish new fund because we have it as an institution, as I said, way before ESD and EED came into the light, and we used this existing institution to also comply with the requirements of EED and to implement our energy efficiency policy. And as I said, the benefits are really significant, as we have one crucial body handling many projects. This also enables better monitoring of the results. Of course, limitations, as I put it here, there's never enough money for energy efficiency or for needs, and especially with increased targets. And what we are facing in Croatia, that we are heavily depending on grants, and as you saw, quite high grants for energy efficiency, and sometimes in context of Article 7, it's maybe also hard for obligated parties to compete with high grants from energy efficiency fund, but still the things are moving forward. So that was it, and end of my presentation, and I would be happy to reply to all possible questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Vesna, very much. And before switching to the Spanish fund, and there is one question in the chat, which I think you can answer it immediately because it's directed to linked to the Croatian fund, and it is whether there is a target for the fund to achieve at least, for example, 1 kilowatt-hours of savings for 1.2 kunas collected, or if there is any kind of target that's linking the amount of collected money with the kilowatt-hours saved.
Okay, should I answer it in chat or right now?
You can answer it now, I think, and we can shorten the Q&As. It's the director.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For this question about target for the fund, no, it's not established. Although we put in NECP when we were developing measure called Energy Efficiency Obligation Scheme. there was it stated that funds should make a program for using this money from penalties from obligated parties. This has not yet happened. But it's a written, and I think it will be it will come or become even more important once they start receiving money from the penalties. And for a second question, Jean-Sebastien, thank you for this question. This is a very important question. I would say the question is, can project receive funding from both the fund and an obligated party? The answer is it could in past tense. Meaning that this was enabled in previous period, so until end of 2020, and it was enabled that if the project received, for instance, 40% of grant from the fund, then 40% is funds, or from 40% is alternative measure, but the other 60% can be sold to obligated party or transferred to obligated party, and they could fulfill their obligation with that. And I think you see the issue. Then we have one basket, from the same basket into two different goals, and we want to have two baskets. We want to have alternative measures, and we want to have obligation systems. So from 2020-21 onwards, this sharing of measures of savings is not possible. So if co-financing comes from the fund or from public source, that's an alternative measure, and the energy efficiency obligation scheme is separate. Okay, Sam has another question. Thanks, Sam. So the question is, can programs apply to the fund to fund smaller measures across many households or SMEs? It's something that we are now working on. Basically, for instance, for single family houses, and as you have seen, we have 17,000 projects. I don't know, 13,000 of them are single family houses. So it's a huge burden to handle this number of small projects. So basically, in our programs, we are now introducing the aggregation of projects, so that one aggregator could apply many smaller projects, but it's work in progress. I still cannot tell you about how it will go. Work in progress, and we are thinking about it. Ivana, please stop me, because still.
Of course, yeah. Please answer the questions, and we will just shorten the Q&A. I think that it's very interesting what the questions are.
For the Social Climate Fund also still no info about that. Then one more. You mentioned loans. I mentioned loans for projects also, but I also mentioned that the fund can give loans according to legal framework in which the fund is operating, but this is really rarely used. So loans were actually provided in the past, and dominantly in the period when we had started developing renewable projects. And then even investigation of locations and project documentations were quite a burden to projects. So basically, then loans are given to project developers for this kind of projects. So it was way in the past. Now the loans, at least in last, I would say 7 years, which is relevant period for 2014 onwards, the fund did not give loans to for energy efficiency projects. So unfortunately, I cannot answer you these questions with some more implementing details.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Vesna.
Yeah, I hope I gave satisfactory answers, but you have my contacts also. If there are more questions, I'd be happy to answer.
And if we
Thank
would
you.
have time at the end, maybe also for the Q&A.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks a lot. This was very informative. And now we will switch to the Spanish case with Diana Lopez Garcia. Thank you for joining us, and you can also share your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Ivana. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah,
of course. Okay, thank you. So, well, first of all, thank you very much to ENSMOV project for inviting IDAE to share our experience in the National Energy Efficiency Fund. I work for IDAE, that is the Spanish energy agency that belongs to the Ministry of Energy through the State Secretariat of Energy. I prepare a short presentation about our national fund, and the presentation is divided in 2 main points. First, a small point that deals about the energy saving obligation in Spain. The second one, I will talk about the fund and also the Spanish obligation scheme, because both are related. And finally, I have a last slide with some success factors and also lessons learned from our side. Okay. Yes. I just want to give you very rapid some figures about the Spanish context, and is that for the first period 2014 and 2020, our target was around 16,000 kiloton of oil equivalent. For this new period, we are talking about 36,809 kiloton oil equivalent. If we assume a linear distribution, we are talking about 669 kiloton. The figures are represented to these 2 charts. So in Spain, we have both the obligation scheme, but also the alternative measure. Is similar to the Croatian case, but we build this in another way. We could say that we always have had the alternative measures, because Spain, as all the member states, we are working in energy efficiency programs a long time ago. And in 2014, we established the obligation scheme. So I move on to the second point, that is explained with more detail our national fund and our obligation scheme. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, if we talk about the fund, we have first to talk about our obligation scheme. Both systems, the obligation scheme and also the fund, were established through the same law, the law 18 from 2014. well, this law, of course, corresponds directly with the Energy Efficiency Directive. No, this law implements Article 7 of the directive. Last year, 2020, the law was extended through this law, Royal Decree 23/2020. And that means that both the obligation scheme and also the national fund were extended till this new period that will finish in 2030. So we have this obligation scheme. We need to define which are the obligated parties. In our case, are the energy companies of gas and electricity, and also all products and LPG retails. Well, this law also established that every year we have to establish an annual obligation for this obligation scheme. And well, how is this obligation amount established? Well, we calculate the possibilities of our energy savings for the year. So after subtract the energy savings achieved, that we think that we can achieve with alternative measures, we establish this objective. From 2015 till this year, 2021. The amount has established in 262 kilotoids. Every year, at the end of March, the ministry issue the ministerial order with the total amount of energy savings. So we have the total amount, and then we have to distribute the obligation for every obligated party. We could, well, there exists this formula. We have this, no, that you can see at the end, and it's also explained that we take into account the obligated party per year, the year N-2. That means that for 2022, we will consider the sales of 2020. And then we take into account also the average annual saving target for the previous period and divide it between the average annual sales volume of all obligated parties. And also we consider a factor that we call C, no, and is established by the ministry according to political decisions. But we could say that the annual obligation of energy saving for its obligated party is calculated proportional to the volume of their sales. Well, we now know what is the obligation of each party, and then we have the financial equivalence that it was established last year in 1.6 million euro per kilotoe. And with this financial equivalence, we can translate the energy savings obligation, the annual energy saving obligation, to their financial contribution. Is that financial contribution that the obligated parties had to put in the Energy Efficiency National Fund? And here we have the link between the two systems, the obligation scheme and also the national fund. The obligated parties can pay in four parts with equal payments. This law, this is also very important. It also says that it's possible the government can develop energy savings certificate, white certificate. And in fact, the ministry is working on this new system. And this year, between May and June, the ministry published a first public consultation about the draft of the future law. So let's move to the Energy Efficiency National Fund. Well, I've explained a little all. We have the obligated party that have to put money in this fund, and we can use this money for financing mechanisms, economic, financial, technical, ancestral, also training, and other measures. The duration of this fund is also till the year 2030. And how is organized the fund? Well, it depends of the Ministry for Ecological Transition and Demographic Challenge through the State Secretariat of Energy. IDAE, the energy agency, manage the fund, but this is very important. There is also a committee of for management and monitoring and control of the fund. This committee have several meetings during the year. This committee is who approve the different programs and measures that are going to be developed by the fund. At the end, we are always talking about public programs for the promotion of energy efficiency projects. So there is also another important feature of our fund that, of course, we have the contribution of the obligated parties, but also the fund can receive other contribution from the general state budget and also other sources, European sources, like, for example, the European Structural Fund, and, well, whatever other financing that is dedicated to energy efficiency measures. With this table, I want to sum up the different public programs that we have developed between 2014 till the last year. So I'm sorry because I couldn't translate the table, but most of the programs are for public lighting, industry, also transport, and buildings, reformment for buildings. And, well, I want now to move to the last slide and sum up what we have learning and we still are learning about our Spanish fund. Well, the Spanish system allows to us budgetary stability and prediction. Because we know that every year we had our ministerial order with more or less amount of 207 million euros that the fund will receive, and that allow us to foresee the different measures that we want to implement. And this is very important for this second period where our objective has been increased a lot. Well, most of the implemented measures are public programs that are designed according to the demands of every sector. So we thanks to the different public programs, we can learn where and how to design and where are more options to achieve energy efficiency in the different sectors, and this is very important. And also thanks to these public programs, we get a lot of information about For example, in a building, what is the total amount of investment budget for a building, for example? What are the amounts that are interested for the people that are asking for these energy efficiency projects, which is the public amount that they need, so these public programs help us in order to design the future cycle of energy efficiency policy. But of course, we have also some lessons learned. For example, in Spain, we have a decentralized administration. That means that we need to manage the different programs together with our regions. This is very useful because, of course, it arrives very well, the different programs to the users, but on the other hand, the management it's more complex. We have 19 regions. Also, another point is that we need a political decision for the financial equivalence, and this is not always so easy. And I didn't put in the slide, but there is another issue that it's important, that not all the public programs are have success. There are some public programs that really had a lot of success, and then all the budget is consumed. But there are other programs that not. Of course, we if you can read later the table that I give you, summing up all the different programs, we continue working on those programs that are more have more success in Spain, such as the industry program or the building program. And that's all from my side. I will be very happy if you have some question and answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lopez. I see that there are no direct questions, but there will for sure be questions in the Q&A section. So I hope you have time to stay with us until then.
Okay,
and now, thank you very much. And we'll hear a bit more about the Italian case from our colleague Dario Di Santo from FIRE. Dario, can you also share your presentation?
Yes. Hello, Ivana. No, sorry, that I was no. Okay, wrong button. Sorry. Here I am. Okay, here we are. So thank you. Welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be here to say something about one of the support schemes that are available in our country presently. I'm Dario Di Santo. I'm Managing Director of FIRE. FIRE is the Energy Efficiency Association in Italy. We manage the Energy Manager Network on behalf of the Ministry of Ecological Transition. And we are active in a lot of initiatives, programs, and actions related to energy management and energy efficiency. So the Italian National Energy Efficiency Fund was established in 2014 within the transposition of the Energy Efficiency Directive. It was launched 5 years after, in 2019, with an initial budget of 310 million euros. And it is financed through various resources, for example, ETS revenues, funds related to Energy Efficiency Directive obligations like energy audits, etc. There is the provision to increase the budget of the fund year by year, depending also on the active demand. The managing agency is Invitalia. The fund is divided in two different parts. One is related to a guarantee fund, which is partly dedicated to district heating application and partly to other measures related to energy efficiency. And the other 2/3 of the budget are dedicated to soft loans that are available both for enterprises and the public administration. The expected leverage of investment is about 5.5 ratio. So it's interesting, and here the aim of the government is to try to add to the direct incentive schemes like grants, like white certificates, so on, something additional covering the financial part and third-party financing. How it works? As guarantee fund, both enterprises and ESCOs can ask for the support. The guarantee is recognized on capital and interest up to 80% of the eligible costs. And the guarantee amount is between 150,000 and 2.5 million euros. The maximum duration of the incentives, let's say so, is 15 years. For the soft loan part, there is one part dedicated to enterprises and ESCOs. Here we have a fixed rate of 0.25% of interest rate and up to 70% of the eligible cost. The amount of the subsidy is between 250,000 and 4 million euros, and the maximum duration 10 years. For the public administration, we see that we have the same interest rate. The eligible cost can be covered up to 60% for most of the interventions and can be 80% for infrastructures and public lighting. The amount of subsidy is a little bit more limited, and there is a maximum duration that can be extended to 15 years. In terms of eligible actions, enterprises can implement whatever type of energy efficiency projects they like, so both on buildings, processes, services, or in related to district heating, both for the network and the generation units. In terms of state aids, the GBER regulation is applied with the well-known thresholds that can change between 30% and 65%, depending on the two different articles and on the type of applicant. So we will be higher, for example, for small enterprises. For ESCOs, in terms of state aid, the de minimis regulation is considered. The ESCOs can implement actions both for buildings intended for residential use and also for public housing. And there is also the possibility to implement projects related to public lighting, energy efficiency services, infrastructures, and energy efficiency actions in enterprises. Finally, for the public administration, there is a possibility to implement whatever type of energy efficiency action, both on buildings, in infrastructures and public lighting. And for buildings, of course, they shall be owned by the public administration or it should be public housing. In this case, it is possible to reach 100% of the eligible cost by putting together different incentives and support schemes like this one, and for example, the conto termico, which is a particular type of grant dedicated especially to public administration, covering both energy efficiency and thermal renewable interventions. All the applications are managed via web, so it's quite easy to present an application. The energy efficiency investment shall be started within 12 months from the admission to the fund. And finally, the application requires the submission of detailed description on the interventions. By this, we mean both a cost table, for example, time schedule, if we are speaking of buildings, the energy performance certificate or the energy audit, the estimation of the energy savings, all the data about economic and financial accounts, and also the creditworthiness of the proponent is assessed. Here we find one of the barrier to the fund, because some ESCOs in the beginning thought that they would be able to access either the guarantee part or the soft loan part, overcoming the barrier of creditworthiness that a lot of times stops their requests for third-party financing, usually due either to low capitalization or to their limited history. So they were, for example, they have been established only in recent years. In this case, of course, this needs remains untouched. So they need to comply with that, otherwise it will be an issue. It is not an issue, instead, for the others, potential applicants like public administrations and enterprises. About the results, it is a little bit early to say if it is working or not, because it started recently, like the Croatian one, as you see, in 2019. And of course, there was the pandemic in between that stopped almost everything just when the fund was supposed to be launching. So until now, 50 projects have been presented, all for soft loans, mainly from ESCOs, secondly from enterprises. Meaning maybe that for public administration there is not real need present for this type of support. Most projects are related to public lighting, but there are also requests for buildings and thermal renewable energy sources. And by the end of 2020, the approved projects are estimated to be able to produce 90 kilotoi of savings, and 50 million euros have been awarded for that. Next steps. Something has been already written in the transposition of a new energy efficiency directive. So, for example, the transport sector will be included after a dedicated ministerial decree will be issued in the next months. There will be a better linking with our national incentive schemes and dedicated grants, because one of the issues presently is to put together the, for example, the deadlines that we have under this support scheme and other support schemes that not always are coincident, sometimes are very different, and that means that it's not easy for the applicant to know in advance if it will be able to gather all this type of support, and this of course can have in fact some effect also on the possibility to access this type of fund. There will also be a better link with the Smart Finance for Smart Buildings initiative, and in particular all the European Investment Bank's programs linked to it. And then, in order to better promote it and allow for its users, there will be an improved promotion of the fund, simplifications on the administrative part, and also there is starting a discussion of a possibility to use this type of fund also for refinancing facility for ESCOs. So for possibility to action like factoring and other similar options that can help the development of the ESCO market and of energy performance contract. So This is, in summary, what the National Energy Efficiency Fund is about presently. We hope to be able to say something more in the next year after we get information on how it is working this year and how it will work next year with the new regulations that will be introduced. Up to now, it has not been the most successful incentive schemes in Italy, but it can be an important aid both for enterprises and ESCOs in order to facilitate the growth of the ESCO market and the implementation of energy efficiency action. So I think that is, Ivana, I don't know if there are questions. But
thank you very much. As I cannot see the questions that are directed especially to Mr. De Santo, then you can ask in chat if there's something really related to the Italian case, but if it's something that would interest also other listeners, please just keep it for the Q&A session so that we can inform on the specific issues, also the others who are not able to participate in the meeting today. And I guess we can shift to the last presentation from Mr. Emilian Stoica, who is the representative of Romania. And in this case, we will hear a bit more about the establishment of the fund, because this is the phase that they're currently in. And welcome, and please, if you can share your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ivana. Hello everyone, I'm Emilian Stoica. I'm part of the Energy Efficiency Directorate of the Ministry of Energy of Romania. I will show you today the steps we have taken in order to establish the National Energy Efficiency Investment Fund. Actually, now it's only a legislative initiative that is in the public debate. So I will present you the steps that we have taken until now and what we want to do with it. So first, something about us. The Ministry of Energy is organized as a special body of the Central Public Administration and is the authority for implementing the strategy and the government programs in specific fields, among others the energy and the energy resources sector, in accordance with the requirements of the market economy and supporting the initiative of economic operators. The Energy Efficiency Directorate is the competent authority integrated in the Ministry of Energy and has the responsibility for elaborating, implementing and monitoring the primary and secondary policies and the legal framework in the field of energy efficiency. The energy efficiency activity in Romania is split between two sectorial fields: energy efficiency in building, which is managed by the Ministry of Public Works and Public Administration, and the energy efficiency in industry, which is managed by the Ministry of Energy. So when we will talk about the Energy Efficiency National Investment Fund, we will talk about the investment in industry and only industry. Among the other activities of the Energy Efficiency Directorate, we are monitoring the implementation of the relevant legislation at the national level for achieving the national objectives for 2030 in energy efficiency, namely the National Action Plan for Energy Efficiency and the energy efficiency target from the National Energy and Climate Plan. Also, the Ministry of Energy is collaborating with the other authorities with competencies in implementation of energy efficiency in building and district heating. But we also are managing the process of the technological evaluation and approval of investment projects for the modernization of the infrastructure and equipment, and helping to increase the percentage of energy savings at national level of CO2 reduction and clean energy production. We are also certifying the energy auditors and the energy managers. We are stimulating the energy efficiency-oriented behaviors of the stakeholders and household consumers by organizing workshops and campaigns for the dissemination of information. We are promoting the energy efficiency programs for consumers through complementary actions, including financing information campaigns from external sources and also from the state budget. But we also are elaborating the legal framework for energy performance contract and ESCOs. About the Energy Efficiency Investment Fund, the National Fund for Investments in Energy Efficiency is intended to be an economical and financial instrument meant to support and carry on projects aimed at modernizing the energy network and the equipment in the energy system, and at the level of the operators, increasing the energy efficiency and reducing the greenhouse gases established by the Ministry of Energy. The amounts from the budget of the Ministry of Energy from external sources shall be managed on the basis of project financing programs for stimulating energy efficiency and energy savings at national levels, producing energy from renewable sources and reducing the gas emissions. The Energy Efficiency Directorate will be the unit that will implement and monitor the programs financed from the National Fund for Investments in Energy Efficiency. And we'll have the following competencies. We'll manage the National Fund for Investments in Energy Efficiency. We'll draw up the annual work plan and the budget for revenues and expenditures. And also we'll elaborate the annual and multi-annual programs with financing from the budget of the National Fund for Investments in Energy Efficiency, and we'll collaborate with the relevant departments within the Ministry of Energy for the implementation and monitoring of these financing programs. So where the fund will come from? We thought about firstly, about the annual budget allocation at the level of the Ministry of Energy, but also about the percentage allocated the Ministry of Energy from the amounts obtained following the auctioning through the common platform of the greenhouse gas emission certificates assigned to Romania for the financing of the greenhouse gas emissions reduction project starting with the year 2021. From a share of 0.5% of the annual gross value of the revenues generated by the economic operators that consume annually an amount of energy of over 1,000 tons equivalent, oil equivalent, from the delivery of surplus energy in the national energy systems as prosumers that implement small-scale projects addressed to SMEs and financed through the programs carried out by the Ministry of Energy. Also, the funds will come from fines received following the application of sanctions, and from the operational programs and other financing mechanisms from the European funds, which are the subject to the energy efficiency criteria of the National Fund for Investments in Energy Efficiency. Who can will have the possibility to access the funds? The small and medium enterprises, the universities that can propose a project that will include the new technologies. Also, we can have the NGOs and foundations, but also the administrative territorial units. The categories of projects that will be financed by the National Energy Efficiency Investment Fund are split in the following. We want to fund the monitoring equipments that will monitor the energy consumption in industry to intelligent measurement system. We want to finance the intelligent storage capacities at the level of network operators and also high efficiency cogenerations. We are also focused on the energy management systems that presume implementation and certification plan. Also, we will finance the use of small-scale units for production of electricity and heat by implementing classical or alternative technologies of high energy efficiency. The energy efficiency programs for consumers, like informing campaigns, will also be financed from the Energy Efficiency Fund, studies for promoting a high efficiency cogenerating, pilot projects, and the acquisition of the digital platforms for centralized the consumption data. The objectives of the financing instrument that we want to build are the following: the reforming of the industrial sector, small and medium enterprises or the large enterprises, by increasing the energy efficiency indicator, including digital monitoring and data centralization systems, and supporting also the innovation by financing new technologies, digitalizing green capacity demonstration projects with increased impact on energy efficiency and the reduction of the greenhouse gases, and the reform of the energy efficiency reporting system by implementing the digital energy efficiency platform for the collection of consumption data derived from the reporting obligations under the specific legal framework, and for the facilitation of financing programs in the field. As an example of what can we do with the National Energy Efficiency Investment Plan, is our current project that we manage at the Energy Efficiency Directorate, which is called Directorate. It is a financing program targeted for small and medium enterprises and for the hospitality industry for the installation of photovoltaic panel systems for the production of energy, with an installed capacity between 27 kilowatts peak and 100 kilowatts peak required for their own consumption and delivery in the national energy system, as well as the installation of minimum 22 kilowatts charging station for electric vehicles and hybrid plug-in vehicles. The program was initiated at the beginning of 2021 and is designed to limit the effects of the COVID pandemic on the business environment and its negative impact on energy efficiency in industry. The future session of this project program will presume investments in photovoltaic energy, heating pumps, energy storage, and EV charging station. Thank you, and I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Emilian. I will now turn on your microphones and your cameras. So if you have it turned on and you want to hide your current status, please also turn it off for yourself. I mean, all the participants. If you have any questions for any of the presenters, please just raise your hand, or in any other way, show me that I will invite you to ask the questions. In the meantime, we also had some interesting discussion in the chat, and I think maybe it's interesting to hear that, for example, there have been some, for example, in some countries, issues with the large energy efficiency obligation parties for the of course paying of the punishments for not achieving the savings. I think Jean-Sébastien, you can ask a question if you wish to, so it's also heard on the recording, if that's okay with you.
You mean, sorry, I was taking note at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
Do you mean the question I asked to Dario, or you want me to read the other questions? The
ones of the two last you asked, whichever you prefer, yeah.
Okay, so there was a discussion with Diana also about the, as she mentioned, that in the implementation of the programs that receive funding from the National Fund in Spain, they are, as far as I understand, they are implemented by the region, or at least the regions, the autonomous communities in Spain have a big role there, which might create some differences between the different regions. And she confirmed that, for example, for renovation programs, there were more activities in the northern regions compared to the southern regions. And I assume that it's also related to climate and more needs in the north. Maybe Diana, you can confirm
Hi,
that.
yes, I can confirm you that it is related to this, to the weather in Spain. But well, one of the problems that we have to manage with together with the autonomous communities is that before we have one basket with all the budget, no? And now we need to divide the money between the 19 regions. So that means that the management is more difficult because we need to readapt every region, and we found out that, for example, in one concrete program, the public program for refurbishment in building, in the northern region there are more demand than in other areas. So we need to increase the budget only for that region. And another negative issue is that we need also like 3 or 4 months more in order to implement all the program in the different regions, because it works in like this. IDAE propose the design of the program, and then the region had to implement in their own regional at their regional level the program. So we need more time in order to go through the different phases, no? I mean, from the national and the regional.
Thanks a lot, Dana. It's quite clear, and okay, we see Ivana, maybe at the same time I can start to in between the questions to make the kind of summary. So what we see, what I like very much from the different presentation is that we see very diverse funds because they are operating in different contexts and they have different histories. Some are have a long history, like in Croatia, and in that case, if I understood well, we can see that the Croatian fund is the main vehicle to finance energy efficiency programs in Croatia, because it has this long history and was set up for that. While in other countries, that's much more recent. The most recent being in Italy and Romania, where in Romania, if I understood well, is under consultation. And in that case, when it's more new, it's new year, that these funds are designed to be complements to, as far as I understood. You can correct me if I'm misleading here, but they are complements to existing schemes. So they come and we can see, for example, in Italy that they are about, let's say, innovative financing approach through loans or financing guarantees, because you have other schemes like the tax credit, etc., that provide more typical funding sources. Another interesting point that we have seen is the differences in the funding sources or the revenues for the fund. But one common point I would say for all of the funds is that they have different sources of revenues. And probably that's also one advantage of setting up a national energy efficiency fund, is that it can centralize different sources of funding that can come from different contributions, charges or fees or taxes, however you want to call them. Also from different types of EU funding, and possibly also other special sources like penalties from obligation schemes or revenue from the auctions of the carbon credits and so on. So that's probably one of the main common advantage we can see in all these funds, that they can be vehicles for different sources of fundings. And one, I think, very important point that was highlighted by Diana in her presentation about the Spanish fund is that when you have a stable, or let's say a secured source of funding that is not dependent on the state budget, which seems also to be one of the objectives of most of these funds. Then you provide stability and visibility to the market actors that can apply to this call for projects, call for proposal, tenders, and so on. So that can also help to the further developments of markets, let's say. Maybe we can move then to other questions. Dario, I don't know if you want to comment about the time needed in Italy between the law that set up the possibility of the fund and the actual launch of the fund.
Yeah.
You commented that in the chat already, but
yes. Thank you, Jean-Sébastien. There are mainly two reasons behind that. One was the choice of a managing agency, and that's because the two ideal candidates that were agency already managing similar funds were not interested, because they are used to manage very large funds, so 3 orders of magnitude larger than the energy efficiency fund. And so to find out the right agency took some time. After that, some time was spent in order to define the framework of the operational framework of the fund, rules, etc. So that may be coupled with the fact that this fund was not the first priority for the ministry, even if it was the ministry that wanted it, generated this delay. But the important fact is that it started and that it can be improved.
thanks, Dario. And that's also an interesting point when we compare the different funds, that some are based on a dedicated organization, and that's the case in Croatia, and probably also that's because of this long history and that it was built as a, let's say, as a main vehicle for financing energy efficiency programs, while in other countries like in Spain, that's handled by an existing agency. So in that case, that has a long experience in managing energy efficiency programs, and in some cases, like in Italy, as you just explained, Dario, the choice of the implementing body might not be so obvious, which might create some delays, especially when it, as you just explained, if it does not fit with the usual activities of the existing agencies or bodies who manage this type of funding. I had also a question, and maybe Emilian, you can answer so that it's kept in the recording. That's related to another part, the scope of the fund. When looking at all the funds, we see that they are not specific to one given sector. They are cross-cutting. Most of them, they deal with buildings, with industry, with public lighting. For transport, I think let's say the way they cover transport is probably different from one country to the other. And my questions to Emilian was whether because it seems that in Romania it's much focused on companies and maybe even with a special focus on SMEs, and whether the fund was also meant to contribute to renovation programs.
Yeah, of course, in Romania there are actually 3 institutions that are managing 3 3 types of program dedicated to 3 different beneficiaries. We have the agency for Environment Fund, which is managing actually some programs, financing programs dedicated to residential building, like but not actually for energy efficiency, but for installing small installations for residential buildings with solar panels or batteries. There is also the Ministry of the Public Works and Public Administration that is managing the funds dedicated to the renovations. And they are working with the local authorities in managing these funds. And we have the Ministry of Energy, which in matters related to energy efficiency financing is managing only programs related to industry and SMEs. So the funding in energy efficiency is split between these institutions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Emilian. And maybe a last point. I don't know, Ivana, you tell me how much time we still have, or if we should end now.
Yeah, I think we can close up and leave if that's okay, of course, with all of you, to leave the chat open so that you can ask if you have some specific direct question for the presenters, you still can ask those questions.
Okay, so maybe I can summarize a few other interesting points I've seen in the different presentation, and maybe, as Ivana said, the discussion can continue then in the chat. So the one other point related to the scope and probably the modalities also of the different funds is their target audience, let's say. So sometimes it's directly the project holders, or let's say the end users, and that's, if I understood well, that's mostly the case, for example, in Croatia. While in other schemes, probably there is an attempt to find aggregators, or there will be intermediate actors, like in Spain, where the regions will implement the program. So there are two steps in the organization, let's say. And in Italy, my understanding is that by involving the ExCos, that's also meant to have the ExCos playing the role of aggregators, most probably. And as Vesna said, for Croatia, that's under development. So that's also interesting to see that whether the funds are directed directly to the final beneficiaries, let's say, or if it's meant to develop a market of aggregators. Another interesting point is that I think in all cases you mentioned that there is a monitoring and a collection of data, and that was also pointed by. We have the example of the Croatian system for monitoring, Smes, and Diana, also in your presentation about Spain, you mentioned that it provides a kind of feedback loop to improve the programs over time. And I guess it's because through collecting this data that improve the knowledge, and especially the knowledge of on energy savings opportunities, and probably on both in terms of, I mean, technical figures on energy savings in energy amounts, but also in terms of costs, probably. And that's, I think, also compared to having many different programs managed by many different entities, probably having a fund enables to centralize this knowledge, this data, to make an effective use of it. And maybe the last point, and I will end, Ivana, so don't worry, is compared to if I may make a comparison between funds and EOs, I would say probably one of the main differences is that when it's a usual type of obligation scheme, then it's up to the obligated parties to decide, and that's exactly the meaning of these schemes, to decide where they will implement the projects. While with the fund, there is a control that the implementing body or even the ministry can have to, that was the question I asked earlier about the allocation between the different programs. So you can define priorities and say, okay, as a ministry, I want to put the focus, for example, on SMEs, like in Romania, or on, I don't know, on public lighting or on renovation, etc. Which is a bit more difficult to do with obligation scheme, even if you can use, as it's done in several schemes, like in France, for example, you can make use of bonuses to make it more attractive for obligated parties to implement actions in a specific sector, for example. And that's all from my side, Ivana. I'll let you.
Yeah, thank you very much,
webinar.
Sebastian. And thanks to everyone, especially our presenters and all the participants. If you, of course, wish, you can still ask questions, or you can come back to us with the questions in via email or any other media I've mentioned in the first presentation. So either our LinkedIn group, which is very interesting, you can join and ask questions there. There are a lot of experts in the group. Also, you can visit the platform and you can find there the information, and you can also find the contacts of the national experts and the national authorities, so you can also directly ask questions on your specific issues. And of course, I've jumped into your word, Jean-Sebastian. Sorry, you also wanted probably to say have a nice afternoon, and see you in our next webinar. We are going to send you the invitations for the follow-up. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.